Before we sort of set this down, what are the benefits? Like, what are we going to get out of this other than just the pain of migration?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk about some of the stuff we worked on. I mean, Pika started as a way to find these packages, this idea that right now NPM search is very node focused. And you can think of NPM as, it started as Node Package Manager. The whole ecosystem has had a preference for Node, I would say, and not really been about what do web developers need from it. Webpack, Rollup, all these things existed to basically take that ecosystem and make it work for the web. So it was very much take a thing that is built to run as installed on Node and now do things to make it work on the web. It's a subtle point, but it's a really interesting part of the model that we all have built on for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
The realization was that this was a big change for kind of evening that playing field, and that like now ESM as a module system is something that everyone can rely on. And that what that means to make this work for the web is actually much lighter touch. So when you have a module system that you can ship to the browser, if you think about what Webpack does, especially when you're doing development, you hit save, and what Webpack has to do is take that one file change, now integrate that into these bundles that it's created, recompile, rebundle, reship to the browser. What you end up with, and I've seen this myself, I know if you've done web development, you've probably seen this yourself, this idea that your dev server takes a long time to start up. When you hit save, it takes a long time to react to that change. There's cool things you can do with HMR, and then if you've heard of React Refresh and all these different projects to kind of shorten that cycle. But at the end of the day, what you're looking at is I've changed one file, and now my dev tool has to go and change a bunch of files. And that's just built into the model of bundling, by definition of bundling, and by definition of what Webpack, Parcel, Rollup, what they're all doing is they're following that model. What I've started experimenting with Snowpack is just a different model. So all the same build tools, you still use Babel, TypeScript, everything you're using today. But the model is changed, the underlying model. And what that says is that when I do development, I actually stop using a bundler. Because I have ESM, which works in the browser, I make a change to a file, and now all I need to do is rebuild that one file. So instead of rebuilding lots of files, recompiling, rebundling, and then shipping that to the browser, it's, how fast does Babel build a single file? Pretty fast. And what that also means is that for caching, right? Bundlers have done a ton of work to create a really smart caching layer. But at the end of the day, again, when you're combining all these files together, your caching is just kind of lower fidelity because multiple files are combined. You change one, you change them all. What we're able to do is that once that file is built and cached, because it's only one file, you never have to rebuild that file again until you change it. So the caching story for Snowpack as a dev environment is that basically every file is built once, and once forever. And then as you make changes, you rebuild. And if you change a config, you rebuild it all. But these savings that you get on the second run, the third run, the fourth run, the startup time is essentially less than a second, down to 50 milliseconds for most people, because all that upfront work of combining files together and bundling, you don't need to do that anymore with ESM. You have a module system that the browser understands. So you can just kind of ship it. And Snowpack exists to just, again, like Michael had mentioned, there's a few little things that it has to do other than building just to make this run in the browser, but it's really light touch.